Incredible twist, single mom rescues starving elder. Hours later, CEO discovers his hidden father. Sarah's heart raced as she hurried down the streets of her small Midwestern town, her thoughts as turbulent as the gusty winds swirling around her. Another 10-hour shift at the diner had drained her, but the sight of her 2 children waiting at home anxious for the macaroni and cheese she could barely afford gave her a flicker of determination. She needed that paycheck. Bills loomed large in her mind, each one heavier than the last, threatening to crush her dreams beneath their weight. The cycle of struggling, of merely surviving, gnawed at her. On this ordinary afternoon, the sudden sight of an elderly man rummaging through a dumpster pulled her from her spiraling thoughts. Disheveled, but somehow regal in his frailty, he wore a tattered coat, his hands trembling as he sorted through scraps. A surge of indignation battered her heart. How could this be happening? Even with her own empty pockets and growling stomach, she felt an insatiable urge to help him. She often drowned in the demands of her daily life, yet somehow, this unassuming man ignited a flicker of bravery. "Hey, do you need something to eat?" she blurted, her voice cracking under the strain of her own hunger. The man looked up, surprise dancing in his eyes before they settled into a warm smile. "Just some old memories, young lady," he replied in a rasping voice that tugged at her heartstrings. Sarah hesitated, considering her meager groceries. Last week's paycheck had just stretched to the essentials. Did she dare invite him into her home, as they shared a modest meal? Peanut butter sandwiches on stale bread. Sarah soaked in Walter's stories. Each tale brought her closer to forgotten dreams, igniting memories of a time when becoming a nurse was a reality, not a distant fantasy. But the suffocating weight of her responsibilities loomed larger now than ever, and the thought of pursuing her dream felt selfish, toying dangerously close to deception of her family. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, as Walter spoke, his eyes twinkling with wisdom, something in her stirred anew. He had lived through adversities that made her struggles seem trivial, but the depth of his heart reminded her of something she'd overlooked. Kindness and resilience mattered more than mere survival. In that cramped, cluttered living room filled with unpaid bills, the warmth of Walter's spirit pushed against her fears, urging her to reclaim her aspirations. But then, just as hope began to take root, dread sidled back into her reality. What if tomorrow brought yet another disheartening setback? What if Walter was merely a memory keeper, unable to help her rise from this abyss? She felt her muscles tighten, anxiety crashing over her, threatening to drown her in despair. To entertain dreams of nursing while barely managing at home felt cruel. She desperately fought off visions of failure, frantically weighing her dreams against the weight of duty, a delicate balance, hardly sustainable. Outside, the evening settled in, darkening the corners of her world. And as concern flooded her chest for Walter's well-being, something stirred within her. She was on the brink of profound change, but the risks loomed larger than the hopes. In that precarious moment, Sarah stood at the edge of a decision point. What would she sacrifice for a chance at a better life, for her children, and perhaps for herself? The questions clung to her, refusing to let go. She felt the tension crackle around her like a storm building on the horizon, unaware of the man across town grappling with the turmoil of his hidden past. Change was coming, but could she truly embrace it? The following day, Sarah found herself staring blankly at the register in the diner, a wave of unease thrumming through her veins. The clatter of dishes and murmurs of customers faded into a background hum as urgency whispered to her was moving forward, even tentatively, an option. The weight of her dilemma anchored her to the moment, even as she mechanically punched in orders. Thoughts of Walter lingered, nudging at her consciousness like an itch she couldn't scratch. The stories he shared last night, woven with resilience and an indefatigable spirit, filled her with a longing for something different. But doubt quickly crystallized within her. Could an ordinary woman like her truly aspire to become a nurse? The disparity between her current life and her dreams loomed like an insurmountable wall. As lunchtime rushed in, she served burgers and fries, each interaction a stark reminder of her choices. The voices around her became a stark contrast to her internal monologue. While others spoke of weekend plans and career aspirations, she remained anchored in her reality, confined to a smaller world. Faint glimmers of hope flickered and ebbed as she listened to a nurse at the next table share her latest experiences, a blend of joy and frustration. "Sometimes you want to scream," the nurse chuckled, rolling her eyes, "but making a difference. Totally worth it." But what did Sarah know about becoming a nurse, really? Her education had stalled, stopped cold by mounting responsibilities. Yet as she tucked her kids in the last night, their dreams intertwined with hers, she wondered if she could find a way to bridge that gap. The clutter of her life weighed heavily, a labyrinth she felt compelled to navigate. A sudden jingle from her phone yanked her back to reality. It was a text from her oldest friend, Mia, reminding her of an upcoming community college enrollment deadline. The message rang out like a clarion call, flooding Sarah with a jolt of adrenaline. Could she really take that leap into education? The image of herself in scrubs wrapped around her like an old sweater, warm, comforting, but so far out of reach. The practical side of her mind kicked into overdrive, laying out the logistics of childcare, work hours, and financial commitments that felt more like shackles than hurdles. But wasn't this the very essence of a nurturing spirit, to evolve, to reach beyond what is immediately possible? That afternoon, as she mopped the diner floor, a customer, a man with a tweed blazer and a confident gait, stopped to chat. "Excuse me, miss," he said, "I've seen you here day in and day out. You've got that spark. Ever considered pursuing something bigger?" His question pierced her chest, the timing too aligned with her thoughts to be coincidental. Was he just another diner patron, or was this a push from the universe? "Funny you mention that. I've been thinking about going back to school for nursing," she replied, the words tentative and unwieldy, breaking free of the cage they'd been held in for far too long. His eyes lit up, and he nodded thoughtfully. "You know, their SA grant program for single mothers pursuing healthcare degrees. You should look into it. You'd make a brilliant nurse." As the shift ended and she returned home, the idea reverberated in her mind, intertwining with Walter's stories of resilience. Could one step lead to another? She opened her laptop and searched for local programs, anxiety bubbling deep in her stomach, battling with an emerging sense of excitement, yet that was when the real question coalesced, haunting her still: would pursuing her dreams shatter her family's fragile balance? The thought gnawed at her, demanding attention. Outside, the sky deepened into twilight, shadowing her front yard and the tension inside her heart. Each tick of the clock echoed a reminder Sarah was perched at the precipice of transformation. The uncertainty of pursuing her nursing dream loomed larger than any challenge she had faced. The question was no longer just about ambition, but about the sacrifices it would demand. Could she transform her life while preserving the stability her children needed? Steps and costs danced in her head like a waltz, each decision more critical than the last. As she sat in the dim light, uncertainty curling around her like smoke, she finally whispered to herself, "It's time to choose." The realization settled in, crackling with the thrill of impending change. But would she have the courage to leap? As the days slipped by, Sarah found herself trapped in a cycle of contemplation and daily responsibilities, each minute dragging her thoughts further into uncertainty. She still felt the weight of that moment in the diner when the man in the tweed blazer had ignited possibilities within her, an ember of hope threatening to take flame. But the reality of her life, the pressing needs of her children, and her relentless workload loomed, threatening to snuff it out like a candle in the wind. She started her mornings with mechanical efficiency, preparing breakfast for the kids, packing lunches, and ushering them off to school before darting to the diner for another long shift. Yet, as she served plates of eggs and pancakes, snippets of conversations about dreams and aspirations taunted her. Her internal monologue was a constant reminder of her own stifled yearning. Amid the clanging of dishes, a distinct yearning began to take shape within her. Harnessing her courage felt daunting, but the thought of those unfulfilled hopes echoed in her mind every time the clock struck 5. Each tick carried whispers of what could be a soothing refrain urging her to rise against the discontent brewing just beneath the surface. One afternoon, during a rare lull, Sarah glanced back at the corner booth where the nurse sat during her last visit, flipping through her notes with the confidence only a seasoned professional could command. The image was vivid, a glimpse of the life Sarah dreamed of grasping. With a deep breath, she pulled out her phone and began scrolling through the information on the nursing program. What did she have to lose? Surely, her children would benefit from her pursuit of a better life. She opened the links, examining the course prerequisites and financial aid options with an intensity she hadn't felt in years. But reality soon crept back in the costs, the time commitment, their current needs. Yet a shift began. Sarah reflected on her own skills while engaged in her work. Her interactions with customers had honed her ability to understand their needs quickly and keep them coming back. The laughter she shared with regulars, her ability to calm irate customers, all of these were built on empathy and resilience, traits that would undoubtedly serve her well as a nurse. In one particularly challenging encounter, an elderly man had darted into the diner, panic written across his face. His wife had suddenly fallen ill, and he didn't know what to do. Instinctively, Sarah guided him through contacting emergency services, her training as a mother kicking in effortlessly. By the time help arrived, she felt a rush of satisfaction, a fleeting moment of clarity shining through her haze of doubt. Hadn't she proven, just then, that she possessed the capacity to rise to the occasion? The realization that she could nurture and save those in distress awakened something new within her, an undeniable strength that hadn't been used in service of her own professional dreams until now. Fueled by a surge of determination, Sarah finally made the decision to enroll in the nursing program. The forms felt like tangible steps toward a long-cherished aspiration. But with that decision came a chilling clarity: doing this would demand sacrifices, reshaping not only her schedule but also her entire family's dynamic. The weight of her choice settled heavily upon her. Would her kids understand? How would they cope during her classes or study sessions in the evenings? This spiraling apprehension coursed through her, churning alongside the determination blooming in her chest. Still, a new resolve began to bloom. Sarah could be the architect of her own destiny. She just needed to scaffold around her ambitions without crumbling the foundation of her family's well-being. It felt daunting, yet thrilling. With papers before her, she hesitated before hitting the submit button. What if this change truly altered everything? But she knew what it meant to leap, to truly grasp the dreams and encourage her children to do the same. As she clicked submit, a wave of exhilaration coursed through her. The possibilities ahead now felt tangible, offering promises of purpose and fulfillment. But just as layers of hope began to envelop her, an unexpected ping drew her attention. A text from Mia, reading simply, "Have you heard about the scholarship gala next month? It could help." The new tension flared within her, mixed with excitement and dread. Would this be another opportunity to push forward, or a distraction that threatened her newfound commitment? Now, faced with yet another choice, Sarah's resolve solidified. She must confront the doubts and seize the opportunities ahead. But with an event looming that could alter everything, she wondered, was she truly ready for what was to come? The weight of her recent decision to pursue nursing hung heavily over Sarah like a fog. Each day began to blend into the next, driven by routine yet tinged with an underlying excitement, her dreams now feeling closer than ever. Yet the stakes had risen dramatically. Juggling her roles as a mother and a soon-to-be student threatened to unravel her carefully organized life. As she served breakfast to her children that morning, she caught sight of their innocent faces buried in cereal bowls, their laughter ringing like distant bells. A familiar guilt crept in. Would her absence during classes shift their world? Would they understand her pursuit for something beyond the asphalt of their small town? These questions nagged at her as she swept crumbs from the table, fearing the impending shift might overshadow the joy of their relationship. Later that evening, Sarah sat among remnants of dinner, glancing absently at the nursing program syllabus she had printed. Concepts like patient care and clinical rotations blurred together on the page, her mind racing with comparisons to her current life. She resolved to transform from a provider of comfort in the diner to a healer in scrubs. The contrast felt both exhilarating and terrifying. That in the coming days, anxiety manifested as tangible habits: frequent pacing, late nights spent studying online resources, coupled with the daily rush from the diner to home. Yet, as overwhelming as the shift felt, a flame of purpose ignited within her. Each time she logged into the nursing site, she felt her previous self slowly fade, a woman mired in routine, displaced by one preparing to face her fears. That weekend, just as she immersed herself in late-night readings, the text from Mia continued to linger in her mind. The scholarship gala was rapidly approaching, a beacon of light amidst her emotional tempest. Sarah wrestled with the prospect of attending. Mingling with affluent individuals felt far beyond her comfort zone. Yet, was this not an opportunity disguised as fear? The night of the gala arrived, her heart thundered as she dressed in a simple, but crisp, black dress she had saved for special occasions. Standing in front of the mirror, she searched her reflection for resolve, grappling with her insecurities. Would others see her as just a waitress? She could sense the eyes of those with perfectly polished lives on her, judging her every move. Still, Sarah pictured her children's smiles, and the vision of a brighter future propelled her forward. Entering the gala, everything felt surreal. The sounds of laughter and clinking glasses enveloped her, the atmosphere steeped in luxury and opportunity. As she edged cautiously through the throngs, she felt more like an imposter than a participant. Her gaze flitted from one group to another, trying to catch snippets of conversations, reminding herself of her goal, networking for the scholarship. Unexpectedly, she spotted Mia across the room, animatedly conversing with a group. Sarah felt a rush of relief, recognizing familiarity amidst opulence. As she approached, energetic laughter erupted, and an influential-looking man turned to greet her. It was Michael, the CEO Mia had spoken so highly of. Sarah felt a rush of nerves, but Mia ushered her into the conversation seamlessly. As introductions were made, Sarah felt as though her life had warped. The woman who served coffee only hours earlier was now engaging with someone whose decisions could impact her aspirations. They discussed a range of topics, and as the conversation deepened, Sarah saw glimmers of intrigue in Michael's eyes as he listened. Expressions of empathy visually passed between them when she described the weight of responsibility as a single mother. Both of them were grappling with similar pressures in their lives, albeit from different poles. In that moment, Sarah felt the walls of her apprehension begin to erode. She was not merely a waitress, she was a mother who seized every chance to uplift her family. But then, as one of the gala's planned speeches began, she questioned yet again, would she ever be viewed as more than her present circumstance? The unease swelled anew, creating a chasm between what she hoped for and what she feared. Just then, she felt a hand tapped on her shoulder. Turning, she faced not just an acquaintance, but an opportunity she hadn't seen coming, one that could alter her trajectory in ways she could not imagine. With Michael's surprised eyes pressing her to share more, Sarah took a breath, bracing for the leap that could ignite everything. The spotlight hovered over Sarah like a tether, drawing her into a dance of uncertainty and aspiration. The lively flow of the gala faded into a muffled hum as professional curiosity supplanted her fear. This could mark the beginning of her transformation, but could she articulate her vision clearly enough to capture his attention? As she steadied herself, gathering threads of courage, Michael leaned in, genuinely interested. So, what is your story? The urgency of his gaze created a storm of memories, each one fighting for dominance. Should she recount the dreary diner days, or would that only cement his perception of her as ordinary? Her heart raced, caught between vulnerability and ambition. I'm a single mom, she stated, her voice steady yet soft, and I've decided to pursue nursing. It's a leap, and I know it won't be easy balancing school and my children, but I believe it can change our lives. She watched carefully, trying to read his reaction. Michael's nod indicated understanding rather than judgment. Priorities, he affirmed. Family and ambition can be a balancing act. What drives you, though? The question felt heavy, pressing against her chest. Sarah took a deep breath, recalling the countless moments spent worrying about making ends meet, the long hours serving food instead of healing. I want to be more than a waitress. I've seen so many people struggle, and I want to give back, to impact lives positively. There was a quiet intensity to Michael's gaze as he mulled over her words. For the first time, her narrative wasn't met with pity, it was recognized as a worthy pursuit. The moment hung in the air, rich with possibility, teetering on the precipice of something profound. Still grappling with self-doubt, Sarah made a mental note to remain assertive. Her past held benefits and lessons learned, not just liabilities. I believe that every person deserves care, and I want to be the one providing it. The earnestness in her plea felt like armor against the weight of judgment. The conversation took an unexpected turn when Mia approached with a group, pulling Michael momentarily from Sarah's orbit. She took the brief pause to collect herself, to let the momentum settle in her favor. As she scanned the room, her heart quickened at the realization that she belonged here, at least for this moment, no longer simply a witness to success but a participator in the dialogue of progress. When Michael returned, Sarah felt the once intimidating atmosphere start to shift. "Do you have any plans in the nursing field yet?" he inquired, genuine interest returning to his voice. "I do, actually," Sarah replied, excitement igniting within her. "I've looked into community health programs, focusing on preventative care for families similar to mine." She shared the dream of establishing a clinic that bridged gaps in services within their community. It was a vision that felt like an extension of her maternal instincts, protecting and nurturing the vulnerable. Once again, Michael's expression shifted, intrigue evident in his eyes. "That's great." For the first time, the faintest hint of admiration crossed his features. "I could connect you with contacts who might help fund that initiative. You're more than just aspirations, you have the potential to change lives." A flood of emotions surged through Sarah. Was this the opportunity she longed for? Faced with a decisive moment, she had a choice to cling to her past fears or to embrace the possibility of a new beginning. But could she really step into this new identity without succumbing to self-doubt? The exchange transformed. A mutual respect began to forge, setting her apart from her previous self. Michael's willingness to introduce her to potential funders hinted at uncharted paths, widening the horizon beyond the diner and the confines her life had occupied until now. Yet, with every gesture, uncertainty swirled. What if he didn't anticipate who would emerge from this synergy? As the gala's atmosphere swirled with glitzy allure, Sarah realized she was standing at a crossroads of transformation. With her newly minted confidence anchored in her commitment to her family and profession, she found herself retracing the steps of her childhood to precisely where she had given up. Could this connection with Michael be the catalyst for not only her development but the change she wished to initiate within her community? With those questions echoing in her heart, the next steps loomed tantalizingly before her. As the evening continued to unearth deeper layers, Sarah wondered what other unexpected pathways awaited her in this delicate balance between past and future. On the edge of self-realization and potential success, she felt the tug of the unknown, compelling her to push forward when the time came to address the reckoning that would define who she truly was. What awaited her outside the gilded doors of the gala? As Sarah navigated through the evening's unfolding layers of conversation, a surge of determination seized her. Michael's interest wasn't just a fleeting moment, it was a beacon illuminating her path forward. As she sipped her drink, she noticed the vibrant laughter around her, a stark contrast to the quiet intensity pulsing in her heart. It beckoned her towards a transformation she had only whispered about to herself in the solitude of late nights. She had never envisioned her life diverging from the diner's fluorescent lights, from the monotonous rhythm of plates clattering and customers chattering. Yet here she was, in the company of people whose aspirations danced just above her own. Could she truly negotiate her way into this world? The thought sent a ripple of both excitement and fear through her veins. A self-reflective storm brewed inside her, mingling her ambitions with an inherent anxiety. She knew that the transition from waitress to nurse would entail grueling work and sacrifice, but she hadn't considered how she would navigate this newfound openness to opportunity. A moment later, Mia returned, bringing with her a whirlwind of energy that briefly distracted Sarah from her contemplation. "You were amazing. He's definitely interested in your project." Mia echoed with enthusiasm, her eyes alight with encouragement. "You need to keep talking to him. This is huge." The unexpected validation shoved Sarah to the forefront of her thoughts. Could she sustain this burgeoning relationship? A thread of doubt whispered within her, making her question whether she had the acumen to grasp this opportunity akin to turning her dreams into reality. "I think he might actually help," she replied, her voice imbued with both eagerness and tremors of insecurity. Mia's unwavering faith sparked a consideration within Sarah. Perhaps it wasn't about fully believing in herself yet, but about starting to act as if she did. With newfound clarity, Sarah pulled Michael's card from her pocket and examined it, the embossed lettering shimmering under the gala's ambient lights. The personal connection was all too real now, with the lines between her role as a mother and her aspirations as a health advocate blurring seamlessly. Before fear could hold her back, she made a decisive choice. She leaned over to Mia. "Let us form a plan. I've got to be proactive. I'll reach out to him tomorrow, share more about my ideas, and ask for specific advice." Mia grinned brightly. "That's the spirit. You're past the point of just dreaming now, Sarah. It's time to execute." Reinvigorated by her friend's support, Sarah spun back to her surroundings, contemplating how to channel this momentum into tangible steps. Yet, just as her confidence increased, a shadow flickered across her resolve. Michael's presence loomed across the room, engaging in conversation with a small group. The charisma radiating from him sent her heart racing, not just from attraction but from the weight of potential disappointment. What if he dismissed her grand ideas? Would that sheer ambition be enough to inspire someone in his position? An internal dialogue sparked within, challenging her perception of readiness. She clenched her fists. She had faced difficult situations before. This was merely another challenge, just like juggling between her kids' needs and her late-night study sessions. If she could conquer the hush of doubt in her heart, then surely she could approach him again. Putting aside her vulnerabilities, she steeled herself, ready to take on Michael once more. Just then, a group of older gentlemen entered the gala. Their demeanor radiated an air of authority and experience, making her suddenly question if they were significant players in the healthcare sphere. Could one of them be the key person she needed to meet? As she caught a glimpse of Michael, the urgency of her motivation swelled inside her mind. She had the threads of potential collaboration woven through her fingertips, and, perhaps, this was her moment to seize. But with each passing second, the familiar swell of self-doubt knocked at her door. Could she muster the courage to reach out again? What if this decision risked everything she had just built? With determination tightening her resolve, Sarah took a deep breath. The moment had come. What would she say when she approached him? Would he still see her ambitions as worthy, or would they wither under the scrutiny of an unyielding reality? Before she could lose her nerve, Sarah strode toward him. The stakes had never felt higher, and with each step, she sensed a shift. This was where her true character would begin to emerge. As she reached Michael, the intricate dance of ambition, fear, and hope hung precariously in the air. The next turn could reshape everything. As Sarah approached Michael, every heartbeat amplified the urgency of the moment. This was no ordinary conversation, this was a potential turning point in her life. The confidence she had gathered felt like a fragile facade barely holding together beneath the weight of her uncertainty. Would he entertain her ideas, or was she simply out of her depth? "Hi, Michael," she began, her voice steady, but the quiver in her stomach told another story. He turned, that charming smile shining like a lighthouse in her fog of self-doubt. "I wanted to discuss my project with you. I've thought about it a lot since our last talk." He nodded, a genuine interest flickering in his eyes. "Of course, Sarah. I'd love to hear more. Your enthusiasm is infectious." His encouraging words landed like a warm embrace amidst the chill of anxiety gripping her. With each detail she shared, Sarah felt the walls of her fear begin to crack. She spoke about her vision of promoting health awareness among underserved communities, translating statistics into actionable change. The mental roadmap she had sketched out for herself came to life, and while she shared it, she noticed Michael leaning in, genuinely engaged and intrigued, but as her voice soared, new questions emerged within her mind. Could she actually implement this? Did she possess the skills it would take to make a difference? Just as quickly as the surge of confidence had arisen in her heart, doubt tried to claw back. Michael interjected. You know, it takes more than just passion. Execution is key. Have you thought about the practical steps you'd need to take? His words were not dismissive but rather a challenge. A challenge she was ready to embrace. Absolutely, she replied, a sense of determination anchoring her thoughts. I've drafted a proposal that outlines potential partnerships and community outreach strategies. I plan to gather local insights to ensure the initiative resonates with those we aim to help. Impressive! He exclaimed, his enthusiasm igniting a spark within her. That's an excellent starting point. But remember, he paused, looking into her eyes, you'll need metrics and measurable outcomes to show progress. A realization dawned on her. While she had always operated in the realm of instincts and emotions, this project required a different approach, a systematic application of her goals. She had spent years caring for her children, adapting to their needs instinctively. Now, she needed to extend that care outward, structured and resolute. As their conversation deepened, she shared her personal motivations, the struggles of single motherhood, the battle to balance work and studies while always yearning for more. Each revelation drew a bridge between them, further solidifying her understanding of how interconnected their paths had become, yet, doubt's clever whispers persisted. What if her idea failed? What if she couldn't navigate the intricate dynamics of the healthcare world she was aspiring to join? Michael's phone buzzed, momentarily interrupting their flow. As he glanced at the screen, the moment stopped, leaving Sarah suspended in her thoughts. It was a stark reminder of the time ticking away, the weight of opportunity pressing into her. Sorry about that, Michael said, turning back to her, but his attention was slightly diverted now. I have to take this. Can we pick this conversation back up? Your ideas are genuinely worth exploring further. Suddenly, she felt the ground resettle beneath her. Of course, I'll follow up with you tomorrow. Perfect, he smiled, you'll start working on developing your metrics, and I can connect you with some helpful resources. His warmth was reassuring, then he slipped away into a discussion with the older gentleman she had observed earlier. As Sarah looked after him, a mix of exhilaration and fear swirled inside her again. Not only had she taken that initial brave step, but she had also uncovered a well of unrecognized potential within herself, the drive not only to dream but to strategize and plan. Now, a new avenue awaited her exploration. With renewed energy, her thoughts raced. She needed to jot down everything that had been discussed, refine her ideas, and draft a clear action plan. No longer could she simply wait for opportunities to present themselves, she would create her own paths. As she turned away from the crowd, the reality of all she had yet to embrace pressed heavily upon her. How could she ensure she wouldn't collapse under the weight of expectations? What challenges lay ahead in balancing both her responsibilities and her aspirations? With determination igniting a fierce resolve, Sarah understood the next day would be crucial. This was merely the beginning, but she needed more than courage. She sought clarity and concrete strategies, and just as she began to carve out her plan, a figure approached, a woman inquiring about the Health Initiative project, intrigued by Sarah's earlier conversation with Michael. The stakes had suddenly risen, and she felt her heart start to race once more. Could this be another unexpected twist aligned with her journey, or was it merely a distraction standing between her and her dreams? As Sarah met the gaze of the woman approaching her, an unsettling mix of anticipation and anxiety coursed through her. Who was this? What kind of interest had her project ignited in others? She pushed aside lingering self-doubt, focusing instead on the moment. This was not merely a distraction, it could be a pivotal opportunity. Hi, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation with Michael, the woman began, her tone warm yet determined. I'm Alex, and I'm really passionate about community health as well. Can we talk about your ideas? Oh, yes. I'd love to, Sarah replied, her heart racing at the prospect of sharing her vision with someone else who understood the stakes. This was her chance to solidify her sprawling ideas into something tangible. Sarah gestured for Alex to sit at a nearby table. As they settled in, she felt a swell of adrenaline. The conversation flowed, each word driving her deeper into her own vision. Alex's insightful questions nudged Sarah to think more critically about her project. Alex was experienced, yet her energy was refreshing, like a gust of wind that fanned the fire burning inside Sarah. Metrics, huh? How do you plan to measure the impact on the community? Alex posed thoughtfully, lifting an eyebrow. Sarah's previous conversations with Michael echoed in her mind, and the responses began formulating instinctively. I plan to survey community members before and after our initiatives. It's important that we establish a baseline and gauge real changes, she outlined, the words flowing as clarity emerged from the depths of her uncertainty. Excellent. But you'll need to ensure that the data collected is relevant and actionable. Have you considered how you'll present your findings? Alex leaned in, genuinely interested. The dialogue opened new avenues that previously felt hidden under layers of doubt. They brainstormed ideas for partnerships that could propel Sarah's initiative, from local schools to health organizations. Each suggestion felt like a brick placed firmly into a wall that was taking shape, a foundation for something real. Sarah's confidence surged with every passing moment, and she experienced an unfamiliar yet invigorating sensation of competence bubbling up. Yet, amidst the excitement, there crept a gnawing reminder of her responsibilities at home. How would she balance this newfound ambition with her duties as a mother? Would her children understand her time commitments? The internal dialogue pulled her back momentarily, pulling the vibrant colors of her ambition into gray. Are you okay? Alex asked, catching the flicker of hesitation on Sarah's face. Just thinking about my kids, she admitted, the vulnerability unwinding a small thread of her confidence. I struggle between being fully present for them and pursuing the professional life I've dreamt of. Reflecting honesty sat heavy in the air. Alex nodded understandingly, it's quite the balancing act. Just remember, your pursuit is a wonderful example for them. You're teaching them that dreams deserve actionable steps, even amidst chaos. Her words resonated, wrapping like a comforting blanket around Sarah's swirling thoughts. She took a deep breath, letting go of some of the weight she held. If Sarah wanted to embody the change she sought, it began with forgiving herself for wanting more. As their conversation wrapped up, the hours seemed to evaporate. Alex promised to connect Sarah with a mentoring program she knew about, one that could provide further structure and guidance. The exchange had been powerful, a weaving together of lives and ambitious threads. Sarah felt more equipped to confront the world ahead, no longer solely reliant on instinct. As she walked away, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from Michael, confirming their follow-up for tomorrow. Excitement swelled again, punctuated by the thought of Alex's contact and the myriad opportunities that seemed to blossom from the conversation, but just as Sarah considered how to weave her next steps into the intricate tapestry of her life, a flicker of fear resurfaced, casting a shadow over her anticipation. What awaited her in the meetings ahead could also unravel her underpreparedness. Perhaps there was more to fear than just failure. What if she succeeded? The density of that thought lingered, entwined with the sense of longing she carried. Could she truly embrace success without losing the essence of who she was as a mother? As she pondered, the shadows of her insecurities whispered louder, testing the resolve she had begun to forge. The moment juxtaposed her ambitions with her doubts, reminding her of the perpetual dance between the two. Tomorrow would be a critical juncture, but would she step forward boldly or hesitate once again in the face of potential? The thrill of possibility collided with the chilling reality of expectation, leaving Sarah at the precipice of a decision that could alter everything. It was time to confront not just the future, but the deeper layers of her own identity. In that moment, she understood that preparation was not only about logistics but also about embracing the full scope of her evolving self. The final question begged in her mind: could she truly be ready to face everything that waited beyond her door? As dawn broke, Sarah's mind swirled with questions. The weight of her ambition settled heavily on her shoulders as she readied herself for her meeting with Michael. She had spent the night wrestling with her choices. Every pivot in her career now felt a dozen steps ahead of her, demanding more than she had ever anticipated. In the quiet of her kitchen, she brewed a strong pot of coffee, hoping it would fuel the fire igniting within her. As she watched the steam rise, she contemplated the day ahead. The potential for success bore down on her like the vibrant aroma of coffee. It was alluring yet intimidating, filling her with energy while simultaneously making her cautious. She considered what Alex had said. Demonstrating her ambitions to her children was one thing, but living up to those expectations was another. Should she prioritize clarity and strategy over her instinctive passion? In times past, her intuitive leaps had paid off, but now she needed a plan. Could she balance the role of a visionary with that of a present mother? As the clock ticked toward their meeting time, she dressed with intention, selecting an outfit that embodied both professionalism and a touch of warmth. She refused to hide the person she was, both a mother and a soon-to-be leader. Sarah wanted to show Michael that her ideas were not only valid but vital. Arriving at the cafe where they agreed to meet, she scanned the room for a familiar face. The morning light streamed through the window, illuminating a spiral-bound notebook in her bag. It was filled with notes, observations, and her burgeoning vision for community health, her lifeline to the potential future she dreamed of creating. Michael arrived, his demeanor professional but approachable. They exchanged pleasantries, but Sarah noticed his distractedness. His mind appeared to be elsewhere as he settled into their discussion. "I've been thinking about our last meeting," he began, tapping his fingers on the table. "You have some compelling ideas, but I want to know more about how they translate to actionable outcomes. The board needs data and proof of concept." Her heart raced. Did he doubt her? She shook off the thought, focusing instead on the opportunity. "I've been considering some metrics." She began, detailing her plans to integrate qualitative and quantitative research methods, mirroring Alex's earlier suggestions. Michael listened intently now, nodding occasionally as she explained how her initiatives could directly impact the community. She could feel the confidence growing within her as she illustrated her points, further removing the steam that had clouded her judgment. Just as they reached the crux of their discussion, Michael shifted the focus with an unexpected question. "How are you planning to deal with setbacks?" His gaze locked onto hers, challenging and piercing. The question sent her racing back to her fears. What if she failed? Yet something shifted within her. Perhaps failure was inevitable, but it didn't have to define her. "Every setback is a lesson," she responded, her voice steady. "I intend to learn, to adapt. I want to build something that lasts, not just for me but for my children." Michael's interest peaked. "You sound more sure of yourself now." "I am. I've realized I have the power to shape both my personal and professional life." They exchanged ideas for nearly an hour, the conversation burgeoning into a dynamic exchange as he provided insights from his experience. Sarah's thoughts unfolded harmoniously, and by the time they wrapped up, she had shared not just her project, but her vision for a different kind of future, one that integrated her ambitions with her identity as a mother. As she left the cafe, it felt as if chains had been lifted. The uncertainties that initially clouded her path began to dissolve in the wake of her renewed resolve. There was still much to learn, but Sarah understood now that success required more than just data or metrics. It involved owning her story, the tug-of-war between her roles and aspirations. Yet, as she drove home, exhilaration surged despite a gnawing worry, a whisper of doubt slithering back. Would this new direction alienate her from her children? She felt a sudden pang of guilt at the thought of time slipping away, even if it brought about the future she dreamed of. Pulling into the driveway, she sat for a moment, wrestling with the intertwining feelings of triumph and doubt. Could she truly claim the life she wished for without sacrificing what she held most dear? Before she could answer, a message notification interrupted her thoughts, an unknown number requesting her to come to a nearby community meeting. Curiosity bubbled within her, mingling with trepidation. What if this opportunity contained the spark she needed to propel her vision further? Balanced on the edge of possibility, Sarah's heart raced with a mix of excitement and dread. It seemed destiny was pushing her toward yet another crossroads. Would she answer the call? As Sarah sat in her driveway, the late afternoon sun cast a warm glow over her world, the world she was determined to reshape. The community meeting text pinged again in her pocket, urging her to step outside her comfort zone. So much had changed, she could no longer afford to linger in uncertainty about her potential. Driven by a thirst for opportunity, she decided then and there to go. An hour later, she found herself seated among a diverse group, all visually captivated by a charismatic speaker discussing community health initiatives. Each word resonated with her burgeoning vision. The atmosphere pulsed with shared aspirations, igniting the spark she could feel growing inside her. I may not just be a waitress anymore, Sarah mused as she scribbled notes furiously, her entire focus now directed towards the potential within herself and the community she yearned to uplift. Afterward, she approached the speaker with newfound determination. This was no longer the timid woman from the diner. As they spoke, Sarah's heart raced with collective ambition. She pitched her ideas, weaving in everything she had learned thus far. She spoke not just of plans, but of strategies, metrics, and an unwavering commitment to bettering the community. The speaker nodded, clearly impressed. You have a vision and clarity about your objectives. You need to explore more formal partnerships, they said, offering her leads to key contacts in the health organization sector. Stepping out into the evening, Sarah felt invigorated. The anxiety that had gripped her in the past weeks began to fade, eclipsed by the validation of her ideas. It had become remarkably clear her transition from mere aspiration to active engagement was underway. It was a journey toward growing not only herself but also inspiring her children to elevate their dreams. Over the next few weeks, Sarah initiated meetings with local health organizations, poised to translate her vision into actionable strategies. Every interaction added depth to her understanding, revealing pathways previously locked outside of her reach. These moments proved pivotal. She had transitioned from waitress to actress in her own life story, orchestrating each component toward a common self-made goal. When Michael contacted her for a follow-up meeting, she arrived exuding an air of confidence she hadn't possessed before. I've networked with local clinics and have preliminary plans for partnering with their outreach programs, she shared excitedly, laying out her vision with precision and clarity. The feedback she received was nothing short of affirming. Then came recognition. An article featuring her initiative hit the local paper, detailing her resolute mission to transform underrepresented health access in their community. You're not just one to watch, you're making tangible changes, noted the reporter, capturing her essence as more than just a devoted mother or waitress. With her venture gaining momentum, Sarah stood proudly among stakeholders and professionals who once seemed out of reach. She learned to communicate her ideas with impact, all the while feeling her old self dissolve away. The self-doubt that had once clouded her clarity was replaced with a sharp focus and unwavering determination. Eventually, Sarah took the plunge by presenting her project at a major conference, her moment of reckoning. Sweaty palms and rapid heartbeats echoed her former tumult, but now she stood before an audience, a beacon of her transformation. I'm here not just as a single mother, but as someone dedicated to changing lives, to ensure that access to healthcare is a right, not a privilege. As the applause erupted, Sarah realized she had successfully shed her old narrative. The doubting waitress was now a confident woman rooted in ambition. Back at home, her children celebrated their mom's journey with pride in their eyes. Together, they crafted a health education initiative aimed at empowering young people towards well-being. Their dreams intertwined seamlessly with hers, each sharing in the process of envisioning different futures. Now, Sarah felt standing at the pinnacle of self-realization, the daughter, the mother, and the emerging healthcare advocate, all woven into one fabric. This felt right. She had triumphed over her obstacles and transformed into the mother her children could model, a figure they could admire rather than merely depend on. And with every motivated step, she proved that her dreams were not just possibilities, they were becoming real, tangible accomplishments she could build on. The sky was no longer a limit. It was her canvas. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.